Hi everyone, welcome back to Japanese Politics 101. You can't discuss Japanese politics without the inclusion of the role of scandal in how it molds and how it collapses Japanese politics and Japanese politicians. Today our topic is scandals in Japan. Michael, scandalous.
Well, scandals are in every political system, at least one that has some kind of press. And some of them are manufactured, some of them are real. But the question in the case of Japan is it a more corrupt country than other countries? And if so, what does scandal do for the country? And the answer is, well, you've been around a lot longer. And then this is going to be an interesting conversation. You have probably a very different view of scandal and corruption than I do, because you've been around for a lot longer.
Right.
And a lot of people think that, Japan has changed.
Well, I don't think it's corruption in the sense that we understand corruption, where it's money under the table, where you're buying something and you're kind of hiding it.
Bribery or some kind of, trying to give money to a politician to do something for you. That's not the way corruption generally is in Japan.
And that really doesn't trigger a scandal in Japan. The bar for establishing a scandal is very low. You're sleeping around, or you didn't do something that society kind of dictates somebody of your posture would do. I could do it and get away with it, but you're a public figure. You get tax money, or you're a movie star, and I watch you on TV, so we hold you up to a higher standard. And when you violate that, boy, they come back with a vengeance.
Yeah, there's a new book out by Stephen Reed, the political scientist here at Chuo University, at least until recently, that tries to place that issue of scandal in Japanese life. And he does say in the book that scandals per se they're not often involving large amounts of money or corruption. Scandals can just be you are violating the sense of what the public thinks a public figure should be doing.
Right.
And they can be really minor. And in the case of, we had just recently the resignation of the Niigata governor. Now,
24 hours.
It was very fast, and the story came out in the scandal mags that he employs prostitutes. What it was is that he actually used a dating service / meetup site, and he had gone on several dates. Now, these dates are generally thought to be, they need to be compensated. And he realized that the money that he gave can be seen as engaging in prostitution.
He's a single guy.
He's single. He's in his 50s, and there's nothing illegal about what happened in any way. All of the dating partners were adults. He got into real trouble because he actually became very fond of one of them, and
a co-ed, I believe.
And then the boyfriend or the whatever he suddenly started getting extortionist demands. You're keeping a prostitute.
Right.
She's my woman. You're sleeping with her. Pay up, or I go to the scandal magazines. And that's how he got caught. And a lot of people saw him as a victim, but the scandal industry immediately picked it up, and he had to go.
If it was somebody in the movie industry or Gainojin, it's okay. Somebody from SMAP doing this, hey, they're young kids,
It's bad, it's terrible, he's a father, or whatever.
Yeah.
But here he wasn't even that. He was single, but he was a politician.
Right.
And of course, he's also got a law degree and a medical degree, so he should be...
the credentials say what a great politician he should be.
Yeah, and he had to go.
Right.
So scandal is something that is used as a weapon. And it can go both ways. It can be used by the opposition, it can be used by the LDP. And you can certainly see in terms of the stories that get fed to the scandal magazines, of which you have a few here on the table. I see Shinjo and Bunshin there, yeah.
So these are the two most popular. They're not. These are weekly magazines. Wherever you go, you see them. Mostly oyaji men, middle-aged to older men, are following this. It has commentary on clothing, on political figures, on people who are doing movies, movie stars, and that sort of thing. It might have a couple of racy photographs in the beginning of
some of them,
flowers,
okay.
but these are the two hottest selling and also the most not scandal prone, news breaking publications in Japan.
Yeah, and
extremely powerful.
Extremely powerful because they play a role that allows the newspapers and major media companies to stay out of that greasy business of bringing down politicians and bringing down bureaucrats with these stories.
Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's
right?
got to. And indeed, many times journalists moonlight for these magazines, ghostwriting their articles with the details that they know, but they can't get their own media organizations to present. Now, it was in one of these two that this story about the TV Asahi reporter, woman reporter who was assigned to the finance ministry, who was constantly being harassed by Fukuda, the vice minister, constantly asking to feel her body, always making lewd suggestions to her, and she had the intelligence to always have her voice recorder on so that he tried to deny that any of this happened. Oh, I was drunk and this never happened and I have no memory of it and there are recordings. Well, okay.
I resign.
As of tomorrow.
Right.
Right now he's still in his position, but tomorrow he's supposed to resign. That wasn't broken by the TV station. The TV station knew. TV Asahi is catching hell for this.
They refused. They refused to protect their writer.
That's right. They told her just buckle up and just take it.
You have access, right?
You have access, and it was instead the story appeared in one of these magazines, and that has brought down that official. That's their function in Japanese life, and so the scandal mags are part of a mediaverse that feeds into then bringing down the powerful. Because frankly in Japan, the usual ways of bringing down the powerful don't work.
Right.
Elections do not decide in a way that you can't throw the bums out with the current electoral system. It's very difficult. It is so geared to returning the LDP and its members back into office. And that's where the corruption comes in. Because while you may talk about sex scandals or policy scandals, like the reason why the DPJ lost in 2012 was because of the way that the tsunami and nuclear and disaster was handled. They looked incompetent, out of control. Well, they were dealing with a once-in-a-century event, and they were let down by the bureaucracy, by the regulatory agencies for the nuclear industry. But it was on their watch, so they had to pay the price.
Right.
Those are the scandals, but the corruption is ingrained stuff.
Yes, it is.
It's termites that eat away at the foundations of the state, and that is the kind of thing where you see, there are fundamentally corrupt issues. A fundamentally corrupting issue is bad districting. That just eats away at people's willingness to go out and vote.
Right.
Because they know it's just not going to do anything, because the LDP is always going to win because the districts are designed that way.
Or moving a maglev test track into the mountains somewhere where you have to build tunnels to, have it levitate off the rails.
Oh, whatever.
How the hell did that decision be made?
And the entire, the business of massive investment in infrastructure, and the iron triangle that gets created between construction companies, bureaucrats, and politicians, where bureaucrats, of course, are looking for amakudari, descent from heaven positions in the industries. That's corruption, and that eats away, and that's real. And for many people, they get confused between the scandals and the corruption.
Right.
Scandals, it's just a way of doing politics, in my view. And we've seen many scandals. But corruption, you have to go at it. And when I brought up the subject of, there's a time difference between you and me. People look at the year 1993 and the first time the LDP lost power, and the complete changeover of the electoral system from medium-sized districts to single-seat districts, the campaign finance laws, the public support for campaign finance, that all these internal reforms really changed matters. In the past, corruption was big time.
Yep.
You know, when Lockheed wanted to pay off Tanaka, they had to come with boxes and boxes and boxes of cash and drop it off at his house. Nowadays, when we talk about corruption scandals, you know, the Abes didn't get anything for Mori Tomogaku, and except grief. They got nothing. But the scandal moves on and on and on. So we're in really small scale scandals now, but they still have the same function. It's to bring people down.
Let's talk a little bit about why that's so in this culture and in this country. I mean, even for people who are living in Japan, particularly foreigners, because we're an object of scrutiny and attention, if you make a mistake inside a company, or you know, a faux pas as you're dating people or going to parties and drinking and you're wearing lampshades on your head, these things have a tendency to stick. And it's like being married. You know, your wife never forgets what you did. And it seems like the environment here, once you're tagged with something, they never forget it, and you get hit over the head time and time again about that time 10 years ago when you remember that. And it seems...
Well, it helps that you're all in the same organization your entire life. So there's sort of a give and take there. You're going to behave because you're still going to be here 10 years from now. There's no turnover. I think things have changed. I think Abe himself is a perfect example of how Japan has changed. The old Japan, he completely blew out in 2007, left the premiership in mysterious circumstances from a mysterious disease that left the country leaderless, without direction. It should have killed him forever. But he came back.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he came back from the political wilderness in 5 years. It's amazing that there is now a second chance in life.
Right. But the other thing about this culture and this society is that people love to gossip. They love to chat. They love to kind of talk about what's going on. I mean, it's the fodder that keeps, you know, social intercourse going. Did you hear what, you know, I heard something. Did you read it here? I saw the picture, and did you know this? They love that.
Well, there's certainly a sense that given that society can be very stultified and working on seniority, that you have some kind of outlet, some kind of back door in order to bring someone down. Seems only a natural human reaction, because otherwise the normal march of affairs is just simply going to have the same people in the same jobs forever.
Right. The thing I'm trying to get to, Michael, is this: why is it that of all of the parts that comprise what our discussion is about Japanese politics, how come scandal is so massive? Why does it weigh so heavily in this balance of power? And I think it's unique in Japan that these organizations can collapse a person's career just by writing an article, and
within days.
Within days,
an entire lifetime can be gone.
Right.
And we've seen it this year in terms of Abe's ups and downs on nearly a weekly basis, based on media reporting. It's just it's incredibly volatile, and that's actually more normal. That this long period of time where we've had for 4 years, where nothing could bring down Mr. Abe, was actually kind of aberrant. We kept saying, when is it going to happen? When are they going to start knocking him down? Now we're seeing that. In the past, it meant that prime ministers could last only a year.
Right. But one of the things that people signify as a strength of the contemporary Japanese politics is stability that the prime minister has provided.
Yeah, but the thing is that he's currently providing instability. Everything revolves around scandals involving himself or his wife. And he can't, in the first part of the Abe administration this time around, if there was the slightest hint that one of the vice ministers or the parliamentary vice ministers in one of the ministries had something wrong, that person was gone.
Right.
But now, since the source of the problem is Mr. Abe, the scandal industry is beating him down, and he can't fire himself.
Right.
Only except, of course, by resigning, which is what we're seeing. And it's again, that's actually the historical pattern. I mean, we went for 2 decades with a prime minister rarely exceeding 365 days. And if so, only by a few. The first time Mr. Abe was in power, he was in power for 366. He managed to last one day more than a year. But Hatoyama lasted 9 months. And that's after a massive electoral victory. But scandal can just take you down under normal circumstances. We've seen stability, but it's been aberrant, and we're now seeing more of the usual.
Right. A lot of people refer to these as scandal rags, scandal magazines. I don't think that they're scandal magazines because as the Fifth Estate, I think they take their job very seriously. They fact check and they do diligence. And before they launch the story, pretty frequently they go, Mr. Minister or Mr. Governor, we're getting ready to launch a story, and could you confirm or would you like to comment on this particular fact? So they're really kind of upfront about it. And also, even if you're caught in the crosshairs, and I'm not speaking from experience, you can't say, I'll give you some money if you just shut up, okay? Would you just go? Because that doesn't work. These guys are professional. They really are serious about their responsibility to the country. I mean, they're patriots, I think, even though they're digging up muck, but they do diligence the hell out of it.
Yeah, I don't know about their internal. Maybe they do take money every once in a while in hush money, but it's not like they would be the ones who would be talking about it.
Right.
It's their role in society, but clearly they provide what in normal, not normal, but Northern European and North American instances would be the free press.
Right, it's not there. So this is kind of a gap filler, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's a gap filler, and scandal is the engine that drives these magazines, and that's why they're called scandal mags. But they are indeed engines of trying to integrate the people's dissatisfaction.
And they really sway. They actually sway public opinion in a way that I think is just enormous. I mean, the entire nation
can just switch over based on a few articles that appear in these particular publications, when the mainstream media is entirely flat and not going after these issues at all. Now, and so scandal, it's an industry. I mean, certainly scandals are manufactured. I think that, for example, the scandal that brought down Ozawa Ichiro's chances of becoming prime minister, that there was nothing there. It was never, there was, if
whatever we'll do.
Whatever we'll do.
Let's get him on tax evasion, Al Capone, right?
Yeah, we'll get them on filing a false document in 2 tax years, and we'll put them all in prison for that. Whereas if you put that same standard on any Japanese bank, and went through their management saying you file false documents, the entire bank would be in jail. And that's true for all of Japan's financial institutions. That if the same standard were applied to them, they would be decimated. The scandal is also often used as a way of not hammering down the nail that's sticking out. And that's another issue. So it's not just bringing down the powerful. The powerful have their own ways of using scandal.
The role of scandal in Japanese politics can't be avoided if you really want to understand how things move here and how people get into trouble. Please stay tuned.